Much more carefully than your young companion, you filled in the shape on the coloring book page with your crayon. Natsu, on the other hand, scribbled like the carefree child she was, with bright colors. You chuckled, genuinely enjoying the time you spent with her. It was simply a plus that you got paid for it. You had been babysitting Natsu Hinata for about 2 months, coming to watch her whenever her parents needed you to. The young girl was such a little cutie, always donning a cheery personality, a loud voice. She was a joy to be around. You found it so precious whenever Natsu would ramble on about her older brother, but you never had the pleasure of meeting him before. Tonight, you were babysitting Natsu for a few hours while her parents were out. Her mother mentioned something about her brother might come home earlier than usual, but you didn't pay much attention to it. "Here, use pink for the trees," Natsu told you, holding out the hot pink crayon. You accepted it, but not before questioning her choices. "Pink? Aren't trees supposed to be green?" you asked, a bit of a teasing tone in your voice. "No, they'll be pink," Natsu insisted, a grin on her face. You chuckled and began to color the trees, leaves pink. You and Natsu continued to color as she began to hum a song you didn't recognize. That moment, you heard the sound of keys in the front door, and then the front door opening. You were confused, having forgotten the information Natsu's mother gave to you earlier that evening. Natsu hopped up quickly, a bright sparkle in her wide brown eyes. She bolted for the door, and you quickly got up after her. "Shoyo!" You heard Natsu cheer from around the door. You rounded the corner to see that Natsu had tackled a boy who looked very similar to her. They were both on the ground, the boy patting Natsu's head. The boy's smile was just as bright as hers. You smiled a small smile, almost awkwardly, waiting for their hug to end. You assumed this boy was her older brother, Shoyo. The moment he looked up and noticed you, you saw his face burst into a bright shade of pink, and his smile sputter away. Natsu hopped off her older brother and pranced back over to you, grabbing onto your hand. "Let's go back to coloring, Lion," Natsu requested, pulling on your arm. Before Natsu could drag you away, you looked back over your shoulder and smiled almost sympathetically at Shoyo. He attempted to smile back, but he was clearly flustered. You and Natsu finished your coloring page together, while Shoyo seemed to disappear somewhere into the house after closing and locking the door. You looked at the time and figured it was about time to begin preparing some dinner. You and Natsu walked to the kitchen and you lifted her onto the counter. "So, what do you want to eat?" you asked, placing your hands on your hips. Natsu contemplated, dramatically stroking her chin. "Ice cream." You laughed, seeing Natsu toss her hands into the air enthusiastically. "You can't have ice cream for dinner, silly." You scolded lightheartedly. "What if I make some mac and cheese?" "I love mac and cheese." You smiled and began to find the needed equipment and ingredients to make your lovely companion dinner. First point of view, Shoyo Hinata. I ruffled my hair with a towel, still embarrassed about Natsu's overly affectionate greeting. I love my sister, but she didn't need to tackle me in front of a person I didn't know. And they were way too cool. I probably just looked stupid. I cleaned up the small mess I made after taking a shower, growing a bit hungry. I yawned and walked to the kitchen. The person from earlier was there too, but they looked like they were searching for something. I think Natsu called them Lion, but I wasn't entirely sure. Do you need help?" I asked, clearing my throat after a stutter. "Oh, yeah, I do," they said a bit sheepishly. "Do you know where the pots are?" Yeah," I said, quickly walking over to the cupboards and finding what they were looking for. I handed them what they asked for, and when they took it, their fingertip briefly grazed mine. I swiftly retracted my hands and awkwardly put them in my pockets. I just knew they could tell I was embarrassed. Yet their kind smile told me that even if they did know, they didn't judge me for it. "Do you need any more help?" I offered, having the desire to spend more time with them. They seemed really sweet. "I don't think so," they said, which disappointed me a bit. I frowned, mistakenly getting my hopes up. They looked back at me, though a playful glint in their pretty eye-colored eyes. "But I'd enjoy the company," they explained with a smirk. "Natsu got bored of cooking with me." I laughed, knowing how Natsu could have a very small attention span. They laughed, too. Gosh, it was so cute. "I'm Y and Ellen, by the way," they introduced themselves. "I've been babysitting Natsu for a while. I assume you're Shoyo, right?" I nodded my head. I watched and lent a hand a bit as Wayne made dinner for the three of us. It felt like the longer I looked at them, the cuter they got. They were so beautiful. "Do I have something on my face?" Wayne asked playfully, flustered that I got caught staring at them. I stumbled to come up with a response. No," I said, tensing up. "Nothing at all." They hummed, clearly skeptical of my answer. Dinner was almost done, and it was smelling great. I went to go get Natsu, and we all sat at the kitchen counter to eat. I saw Natsu grin as she began to dig into her dinner. Wayne chuckled and started to eat as well. Turns out they were a really good cook. It was a really nice time, but soon enough, Wayne got ready to leave as my parents got home. I was kind of sad to see them go. My mom handed them some cash and wished them a good night. Wayne slipped their shoes on and left the house. Not entirely thinking it through, I followed them out. Hey," I called, getting their attention. Do you know when you're gonna be back?" "Probably sometime next week," they said. "Why do you ask?" Natsu was wondering." I lied, my face feeling a bit warm. I saw Wayne took a strand of hair behind their ear. And if you're a guy, just ruffle your, put your hand through your hair, something okay. I'm sure she was. "See you next week, Shoyo."